Welcome back to Crypto Hustle 101. In this video, I'm going to go over how I use Fib Channels to draw more accurate Fib circles that show potential support and resistance. This is a continuation of my previous tutorial on Fib Channels where I made this ETH USD chart right here. This video is going to build on those concepts, so here's a link to that video if you haven't already watched it. So let's get started and take a look at a blank ETH USD chart. Alright, like so. Now, the Fib Circle tool is found over here in the menu on the left, right here. And how you commonly use the Fib Circle tool is you want to go from a bottom to a top, or from a top to a bottom, like so. So an example of that would be like this. Okay, boom. Let's go ahead and make that a little bigger. So as you can see, price is respecting these circles as it goes through discovery. We have support here, comes up, a little bit of resistance before bouncing to the next circle, come back down, then it oscillates back and forth between these two circles right here. Up to this ring right here, come back down, checking every ring on the way down, coming back up, back in this channel before going here, and it just continues to respect it as it goes across, comes here, stops, here, support, back down, back up. And right now, currently, price has passed it over here. The problem with this technique is that since you can't draw this Fib circles until price gets to here, all this price action has already passed before you are able to draw it. So all you have left is this ring, and let's see, a few more rings over to your right. But it's not going to reach this ring till what? February or March of 2023. Now let's take a quick look at how this tool works. Now, the orientation of the circles is based on how you draw the trend line. So depending on how you draw this trend line here, it's going to determine where your circles and rings actually go. So the more the price respects this trend line, the more it's going to respect the rings that it draws. So let's go back over to the ETH chart that we made in the previous video. Okay, now we know that drawing Fib circles from trend lines that price respects, you get rings that price respects. So by understanding this concept, we can now use the Fib channel grid lines and points to draw more accurate Fib circles. Let's find an example of going from point to point. All right, let's click our Fib circle tool over here. And let's go from this point and just come across, staying on that exact line. And let's go to here. Okay, so by drawing from this point on the grid to this point in the grid, we now have Fib circle rings the price is respecting. Like as it's going through discovery, it came up here, resistance. Came back down, came back up, resistance again. Came back down, came back up, finally got past it, flipped to support. And it goes all the way up to the next ring before it gets rejected again, comes back down to the previous ring to find support again before coming back through. Comes back up, support again, can't hold, falls back through, and what does it come down to? The very next ring. Support, support, comes back down, next ring. Support, support, bust through, next ring. Up to here, goes to this ring, resistance. Resistance, come back down to the next ring, find support. Comes through price discovery, back up to here, resistance, back down, support, up to next ring. Here, same thing, next ring, back down to here. And he's going through this process of oscillating back and forth, but as it goes back and forth and up and down, it's stopping and resolving price at these rings each time. So let's go all the way over to here, found support, 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 resolves it, goes up to the next ring. Resistance, comes up, comes back down, finds support, resolves it, goes up to the next ring. Same thing here, resistance, up to resistance, comes back down, forms a W, goes back up, more resistance, comes back, same thing, and now we're over here in price. Now that's just going from this point to this point, but if we take a chance and go over here, and we just extend a little more, now we have the actual peak right here where it stopped. Okay, so that's an example of going from point to point. Let's move the chart over here and just blow it up a little more. And let's show an example of just using the trend line itself. All right, let's click our Fib circle tool again. And let's start on this trend line since we're seeing a lot of interaction on this line. Let's start here. And let's just come down until we see confluence. Oh, not quite on the line. All right, we'll stop there. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. All right, we drew that one kind of quick, but as you can see here, we're seeing a lot of respect on these rings right here. Come up, respect, support, support, come down to the next ring, support, down to the next ring, support, back up, oscillating back and forth, comes down to the actual trend line off of here, goes back up, down, back up, and right now price is here. All right, so the reason why we drew on this line is because, as you can see, we're seeing resistance, resistance, flips, goes up, comes back down, and finds support on the same line right here. But we didn't go from point to point. We just started at a point on this line and came down until we saw something that we may have liked. Now, since we're using the trend lines and points on the grid, you're able to draw Fib circles that show potential support and resistance for the current price action. So that's why we're able, instead of waiting for it to get to a high or a low, we're able to draw it way back here before price even gets here. And now we have all these rings. Like if you say price comes back up to here, you're probably going to see some action when it gets up to these points right here. Let's go ahead and zoom into the 4 hour and see what we can find. Okay, let's go ahead and remove these circles. It's a little cluttered right now. Alright, so now that that's done, let's use this trend line right here. Go to our Fib Circle tool. And let's go from here and come up until we see something that we like. Alright, stay on the line. That's a little off. Let's fix that. Alright, so right now, let's zoom in a little more so you can see. Alright, right now what we have are these rings, and we're finding confluence on these rings. So it's stopped here, came down, found support, came back up, resistance, down, up more resistance, dropped all the way down to this ring before oscillating back and forth in this channel, then finding support, up, back down, support, back up, more action on this ring right here, and now currently price is down here. We found support for a moment, but now we're below it. Now it's safe to say that since we had support recently on this ring right here, that if it comes down and gets past this line right here, we're probably going to find support here and then bust through. You got another safety net down here. So all this really does is give you some potential points of support and resistance that you can look out for. And that's the whole point of technical analysis, is try to give us a better idea of how things are going than just looking at this right here, a plain old price chart. Okay, so also another quick tip, since price is over here, we don't really need these rings right here. So what you would do is you would go into properties and get rid of them. Alright, so we don't need this. All the rings I don't need, I would just hide. That way your chart isn't as cluttered. Yeah, don't really need that. So that looks good. What you can also do is you can bring back the other rings right here. And now what we have is a chart that gives us an edge over everyone else who doesn't have this. So as they're looking at a blank price chart where, hey, where's the bottom at? We'll go here, here, here. This gives you an edge to everybody else. So we're going to go ahead and stop this video right here. Hopefully you've got something from this, and I'll see you guys next video.